Let's see if they're going to unmute my mic. There we are. Thank you all for joining us for another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host. And without further ado, I got to bring in one, if not the most busiest guy on planet Earth. He has to be one of the top five. My guy, Larry Johnson.
Hey,
Larry, I'm
brother,
bringing you in.
my apologies. I left you hanging yesterday. Friends should not do that to a friend. Didn't do it intentionally. I'm old. For some reason, it didn't get put on the schedule.
It's cool, Larry.
And then as soon as I see your email, I go, oh, my God. That's why my forehead's flat, because I keep smacking myself in the forehead.
Hey, things like that go down. I want to ask you, because I know you're busy, but what is going on in Washington with the I think this is the first time in history that the Speaker of the House was removed like that.
Yeah. Hey, McCarthy didn't keep his word. He promised these Freedom Caucus Republicans that he would bring clean appropriations bills before the House, that they would never again get forced into a situation where they had all these appropriations mashed together into one continuing resolution, because that's the most corrupt practice there is. If you do it that way, you can hide billions of dollars, steal billions from the American people. And Matt Gaetz and Nancy Mace and others, McCarthy broke his word. He lied.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, okay, we ain't taking this anymore. You're gone. They had negotiated one of their conditions that they had obtained from McCarthy when he was so desperate to become speaker, because that is the path to wealth and glory. You get to be at the front of the line for the food handout. And so he sold his soul and left that as it was like a ticking time bomb that they could set off any time if he failed to follow his word. I posted the letter that the Freedom Caucus sent him last week, I believe it was. And McCarthy's response, and the letter is very reasonable. It asks some very direct questions. Why didn't you do this? Why are you doing that? Where? And McCarthy basically said, hey, Freedom Caucus. Yeah, that's what he did. And now he's going, oh, I'm shocked and amazed that they're going to try to get rid of me. Well, dude, pick the fight. The people he picked the fight with are not the people who are financially dependent on him. So, Lyndon Johnson, who first really perfected the art of building influence in Congress, in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, by establishing political action committees, raising money, becoming the bank that everybody else had to come to. And so by virtue of getting everybody else coming to you for money, you become the man. Mm-hmm. And, it's a little bit like, he's pushing methamphetamine, and these guys are all hooked on it, and he's the supplier. Well, that's what Kevin McCarthy became. McCarthy was the chief fundraiser. He was the guy. He would funnel money and key leadership posts and committees to these people that favored him, and would punish those that didn't. Mm-hmm. Well, it all came to a head yesterday, and he's gone. They booted him.
Do you think he felt that he was untouchable now that he was the Speaker of the House, the third most powerful person in America?
Yeah. I mean, he thought, being in Washington, it's like being up on Mount Everest, get up so high that you lose the oxygen and you lose the ability to think. That's what's going on here. Mm-hmm. He got his head up in the clouds and just got cut off from the oxygen supply and started, really believing that he was somebody. I mean, just as an example, you saw the acting speaker, the speaker pro tem, he's called, mm-hmm. a guy named McHenry, I believe. First thing he did upon getting the gavel, he told Nancy Pelosi, hey, that office you have here in the Capitol, get your bony ass out. Tossed her. You got to ask the question, why did she still have an office in the Capitol, a favored spot, when she wasn't even in leadership anymore? Because you could bet your mortgage that if the shoe was on the other foot, she would toss Kevin McCarthy in a heartbeat, or any other Republican.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, guys, if you're going to play hardball, play hardball, but don't show up expecting Nerf balls. And that's been the Republicans' problem in part. They're corrupt,
Mm-hmm.
and McCarthy sort of embodies that corruption.
Well, what does this how would this affect America's foreign policy, especially in the Caucasus, because we see that the United States is pushing hard to realign Armenia to the detriment of Russia and Turkey?
The United States is like the most annoying mother-in-law in the world. The crazy lady that's always trying to tell you what to do. She's sitting there chugging a bottle of vodka, smoking 3 packs of cigarettes, and she's telling you to stop drinking and stop smoking.
Yeah.
Okay. And she's spending every night at the casino blowing money out and then telling you need to be fiscally responsible. That's the United States. The United States has been this out of control force in the world over the last 20 years in particular, where we go out and we kill more, we stir up more mayhem, we cause more disruption than any other country in the world. And then we're always blaming other countries for accusing them of doing what we're doing. That's what, and I'm just getting more fed up with it by the day. I mean, the hypoc, because at the root of it, what is involved is what we're seeing with Hunter Biden. This is about U.S. favored people getting access to money overseas. We'll have the right political connections. We'll hook you up, but you got to pay us. And so it's a form of organized crime. That's all it is. So this upheaval right now, it is going to change the face of the House. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a House leadership that's going to have to be less compliant with the Biden administration. Now, some will say, well, what about some of the Republicans may opt to say, okay, we're going to bail, we're going to abandon the Republican Party, will line up with the Democrats and join them and put Hakeem Jeffries in charge. That's possible, but the ones who do that would have no great guarantee that Jeffries would honor his word and grant them, control of a certain committee, which, banking committee or foreign relations or, it's just, this is all about what can I get for me? Mm-hmm. So I think those Republicans who are currently in positions of power in the House, they don't want to jeopardize that by necessarily alienating the Freedom Caucus members. Freedom Caucus members had a valid point. And so I think the odds are right now that you're going to see Steve Scalise or Jim Jordan as the most likely front runners. The dark horse in this is a congressman named Byron Donalds. Donalds is great. He is a former banking finance guy. He is lives down in Naples. So, but they call him a dark horse because, and no, it's not because he's black. I've had some people accuse me of that. Oh, you're being racist. No, he's a first-term congressman. That's what he is. That makes you a dark horse. You don't have all the hooks. And I know for a fact, I've got a friend who is a major lobbyist in D.C. And he had some, let's say, uncomplimentary things to say about Donalds. Well, you know why? Because Donalds ain't his bitch. Donalds is not going to say, hey, man, give me money and I'll do what you want. No. Donalds is an independent thinker, strong guy. And, this is a man, if you want to talk about presidential timber, this man's a walking sequoia tree. Okay.
That's a good one, Larry. I might have to steal that from you.
Steal away, brother.
For those of you who may see a flickering in the back, there's a power surge going on in the neighborhood, and they're trying to fix it. So it'll be hazy a little bit, and it'll be a little flickery in the back sometimes. So I want to apologize, and I should have said that up front. But Larry, the reason I ask you these things is because it seems like the empire, she's pushing with no bounds. Look at the pressure she's doubling down in Ukraine,
Mhm.
and she has Britain talking about deploying troops to Ukraine. Germany is deploying troops to the Russian border, and Germany is openly stating that that they're giving missiles to Ukraine to specifically target Russia proper, not just Russian troops in Ukraine, but Russia proper. And then you have America putting pressure with Samantha Power in Armenia, a former Soviet republic and supposed ally of Russia. I'm talking about they're putting on the full court press.
Yeah, it's like pouring cups of gasoline, and then playing with your matches, lighting them. Say, wonder what's going to happen. We're trying to set the world on fire. Yeah, it is. Let's start with the British. Well, that the guy came out and said, okay, yeah, we're going to put British trainers in Ukraine, and the British fleet will sail into the Black Sea. Well, that'll be its last trip if that ever happens. And then very quickly, Rishi Sunak came out and said, oh, no, we're talking way down in the future.
Mm.
So they did a 180. Now, if you're in Germany, Annalena Baerbock, their foreign minister, she calls that a 360. Now,
yeah.
I don't think you know what that word means. That means you come back to where you started. And what Sunak was doing was said, no, we're making a complete reversal. There's I forget the name of the back. It may be called the Arabic backflip. I mean, it's a gymnastic move where a guy will stand here, he'll jump up in the air and then turn around and land facing the opposite direction. That's what Britain did on this. They finally recognized because Medvedev, the former prime minister and president of Russia, he's now like the existing de facto vice president in Russia, in charge of the National Security Council. And he made very clear, well, Britain does that, they're targets, and we'll be at war with them. And the Brits say, oh, wait a second, we don't want to go that far. The United States, you're correct, stirring the pot with the Brits in Armenia and getting the Armenians to, start trying to push away from Russia and having any friendly relations with Russia, even though majority of the population in Armenia are Russian speakers. So it is the United States is not working to build a peaceful world. We need to have enemies in order to keep our economy going. It's that simple. As long as we got an enemy out there, we can justify, we got to pour more money into the Defense Department. And, on that point, all the existing candidates running for office are wrong, from Donald Trump to all of the Republicans to Joe Biden. Well, right now our defense budget's in excess of $850 billion, headed towards $900 billion, $1 trillion. And when you recognize the amount of money that we've been wasting overseas, and you look at the horrors that are going on in our inner cities in particular, I mean, Black Americans are suffering more than any other racial group in the United States because of these policies. And yet they've continued to embrace, the Democrat leadership. And candidly, it wouldn't help if they embraced the Republicans either at this point, because, nobody has come up with saying, let's make it a priority that every child who enters school will be proficient in math and reading by the time they leave high school. Because if you can't read and you can't add, you can't be an independent soul. And we want to, we're looking to make, men and women who are proud and independent, not dependent. And it's like our entire culture is now shifted into creating a dependency mode, not just among Black Americans, among Hispanic, among Caucasian, across the board. And it's really it's a dangerous time in America when you look at just the legions of homeless that populate the streets and the crime that is going on. You've seen, was it in Brooklyn 2 days ago, this lefty poet, he was a big organizer on the left. He gets stabbed out on the street. Young guy just walks up and, starts going at him with like an ice pick. Another lefty journalist in Philadelphia was making fun of the conservatives who were warning about the consequences of crime. What happened to him? Guy broke into his house, shot him, killed him. So, karma, to say karma can be a bitch.
And don't forget, Larry, what was it this week? One of the congressmen was parking his car a few blocks away from the Capitol, and he was carjacked.
Yeah, Henry Cuellar. He was south of the Capitol. If you go up South Capitol Street, then there's New Jersey Avenue that runs at a diagonal. It's just literally, he was literally a block away from the Nationals baseball stadium. So yeah, and Cuellar comes from he's one of those border congressmen that there are some interesting allegations about his connections to people in Mexico. I'll leave it at that.
Well, do you think, and I know time is short, I want to get just a couple questions in, but do you think that these brilliant people in Washington, do they ever sit back and reflect on the situation? Because they pour so much money into war and propaganda abroad, while at home they're purposely dumbing down the masses, and they don't realize that that will have a terrible boomerang effect, because these are your lawyers, doctors, scientists, and teachers and educators of the future. And if you dumb them down or limit them educationally, you're putting a block on the growth and progression of the republic. In so many words, you're killing your own nation.
Well, look, Rashid, I could take half your brain, throw it away, take you to Washington, and you'd still be smarter than all these leaders that are trying to make these decisions. I mean, seriously, what they are doing, it is so short-sighted. And, and I've just run into this today with having an email exchange with a friend. He's an older gentleman. He's Jewish. Hear that?
I just got it too. A national alert. I just got it too.
That is the National Wireless Emergency Alert System to warn us that, hey, we keep doing what we're doing. We're going to need to set this off for real, because the Russians are going to blow us up.
Yeah.
But I've been having it is inconceivable to me how somebody who is Jewish can support Ukraine in this war that is underway, because they are Nazis. The essence, the core of Ukraine's government is dedicated to the memory of Stefan Bandera. And there's actually now a video out of one of these Ukrainian nationalists, because he was asked directly, he said, hey, what do you think about having a Jew for a president? And he says, it's not the best thing. Zelensky's been better than we expected, but he says, it is a national symbol, and we really shouldn't have a Jew as the national symbol. But he said the nice thing about it is it inoculates us against the charge, those who want to accuse us of being Nazis. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And so I tried to explain to my friend, back in World War II, in the city of Lodz, which is now called Lviv, it's in Ukraine, but used to be in Poland, there was a Jewish ghetto established by the Nazis. They put a guy in charge there named Chaim Rumkowski. Chaim Rumkowski is one of the most corrupt, evil men you could ever imagine. He raped Jewish women that worked for him. He stole. He was the one that made the decisions of people who got on the trains. And he was doing all this to save his own skin, because he figured, hey, if I'm a good errand boy for the Nazis, they'll save my bacon. Well, he made a bad choice in that, because at the end of the day, when he lived up his usefulness to the Nazis, they put him on a train, sent him to Auschwitz, and he died in the gas chambers. So, just a reminder to Zelensky that just because he's been a useful fool, a useful tool up to this point, it's no guarantee that that there's a long life, or that he's guaranteed a peaceful retirement. Just the opposite.
I want to bring your attention to something. I think a day or two ago, I interviewed Tim Kirby up in Russia. It was a live, and he said that there are a lot of people in Russia that don't believe that what is his name, the former leader of the
Prigozhin.
yeah, Prigozhin. He said a
Evgeny
lot of people
Prigozhin. Yeah.
don't believe that Prigozhin is dead, and he also said that the videos showing the shoot down of the plane and the helicopter killing Russian troops, there was never any video showing the missile hitting any plane or helicopter. He said, and that made its rounds across Russia, and that they believe a lot of people believe that it was just time for Russia to quiet Prigozhin and move him somewhere else. With this stuff. What say you on this matter? Because he said he actually lived on the highway where the troops, when this so-called insurgents by the Wagner group took place, he said he was actually on the highway, and a lot of the stuff didn't make sense because that's a long strip, just like you said, and they had to be refueled, and it was hot, and they were stopping, and there were no attempts to stop them or anything.
Yeah. Well, it's just, look, I have a crazy sister. And she, on 9/11, she was writing me saying, that I had been lying to the country about planes hitting the World Trade Center. Now, there's no fixing that kind of crazy because you've got the video, multiple videos of the planes hitting. Oh, that was CGI. Oh yeah. And the passengers, what were they? So you try to reason with a person like that, and in her mind, it's closed. You're not getting that open. So I'd say the same thing to this guy. Number one, there's no evidence at all that the plane that Prigozhin was on was shot down. It looks like the wings detached from the fuselage. Now, some have attributed that to an explosive in the wheel well. That's possible, except the images I saw, the photographs of the wheel well attached to the wing, didn't appear to show any kind of explosive damage. No,
right in the middle. No. He was not advocating that there was a conspiracy to kill Prigozhin. He said that a lot of people in Russia believe that the Russian government did this act. It was an act, and that they moved Prigozhin covertly out of the way, and that a lot of the stuff that the Russian government was feeding the masses did not make sense on Russian territory. That's right. Pretty much.
So you've watched some of the videos of Prigozhin in the past, right?
All right, I've watched them. Yeah.
Okay. Does he strike you like the kind of guy you could keep quiet? Come on.
No, he loved the camera. Loved the camera.
You'd have to stuff a sponge in his mouth and put a hood over his head, and he'd still be talking.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to bury him beneath the ground. He's like, I called him he's like a Russian version bigger of Joe Pesci.
So Larry, where are we headed? We have chaos on Capitol Hill. We have, it looks like a faltering plan to reassert American dominance globally. We have America in a debt spiral, the likes of which no nation has ever seen, and yet she's doubling down on failed policy, and she's antagonizing the very nations that are responsible for buying her debt. How is that sane or rational?
Yeah. So what you're looking at, we're in a Lamborghini. We're driving 150 miles an hour down a straightaway, and there's a brick wall at the end, and we're not braking. So that only ends one way, with a terrible crash. It's just it is unfortunate. I don't see nobody's taking their foot off the accelerator.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. You'd say, we're starting to see elements of that in terms of the leaks that are coming out. The State Department document that leaked this week about the corruption in Ukraine. It was very severe, and they're trying to impose conditions on Ukraine for receiving future aid that will make it impossible for them to steal It's going to certainly take the enthusiasm for the war out of some elements in Ukraine. But you still, I think this upheaval in the House of Representatives, it's not going to bring an end to the funding, but it's going to force a deal in which money is appropriated to deal with people like in Ohio and in Maui, Hawaii, who suffered that devastating loss, and along the Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California border with Mexico to deal with the flood of illegal immigrants. And then there'll be some money for Ukraine, but not as much as before. So we're starting to see the weakening on that. But it remains to be seen whether Congress is going to take any kind of action to really stop this flood of illegal migrants coming across the border and deal with the human trafficking and the drug trafficking that's just destroying our cities. I mean, we're losing 100,000 plus a year now from drug overdose. So we're losing almost, in 1 year alone, we're losing twice the number of soldiers, sailors, Marines that died in Vietnam over a 15-year period. So, it's just the numbers, they're off the charts as far as what America is accustomed to seeing.
Last question before we let you go. Hey, I want to tell everybody this guy lends me his time. He's one of the busiest person on YouTube and out there, period. But I really appreciate the time that you lend to us, Larry.
Anytime. I'm always appreciate the chance to be with you, Rashid.
I really appreciate it. I want to say, what do you think is going on in the minds of Medvedev, Putin, and the Russian National Security Council, and what will be their response for the antagonistic approach of NATO?
They've transitioned from more than a year ago. They, I think, still believe that there was a chance to negotiate with the West, to work out a deal with the West, to come to some sort of peaceful understanding. I think they now have come, again, Annalena Baerbock, they've now come 360. No, they've now gone 180, the opposite. They recognize that there is no peaceful outcome that would be acceptable to the West, that would not compromise Russian security. So in the last week, you've had Medvedev, you've had Lavrov, the foreign minister, you've had Shoigu, the equivalent of our Secretary of Defense. You've had Volodin, who is the Speaker of the House or the Duma. He's like Kevin McCarthy, except he still has a job.
You cold-blooded.
Yeah. And all of these guys have come out and said very clearly, Ukraine must either comply, surrender, or else it's going to cease to exist as a country. They didn't paint any middle ground. There's not going to be transgender Ukraine. It's going to either an unconditional surrender to Russia, and or it's going to be destroyed. What does an unconditional surrender look like? Russia is going to demand that Ukraine relinquish its claim on Odessa. It will take control, probably, of all territory that's east of the Dnieper River, and then let Ukraine have what it needs on the other side. So that's, I think that's where we're at.
Well, that's a mic drop moment. Thank you, Larry. I'll send you a copy of the video in a few minutes. Thank you so much for joining us and giving your time, man. We really, really, really appreciate it.
Anytime. And again, my apologies for leaving you hanging yesterday.
It's all good, man. It's all good. I'll talk to you later.
You're a generous soul. Later, brother.
All right. Everybody, thank you for joining us on another edition of the most powerful platform for truth, none on the web. This is your platform for information, for empowerment, and for education. This is the Red Pill Diaries. We're going to try to come back later if time permits and do another live stream if time permits. We hope that you join us. Hey, support the channel in any and every way you can. Go over to our platforms, the empowermentoftruth.locals.com, on Twitch, on Twitter, on Odyssey, on Rumble. Also, you can become a channel member. Go over to Patreon, become a patron. We really appreciate everything. We're just trying to keep these great interviews and great conversations going, and we want you to be a part of this. You don't have to give a super chat to be a part of this. We're not even about that. We appreciate the super chats, the super thanks, the cash apps, and all of that stuff like that. We really appreciate that. That keeps the channel going, that keeps us motivated, that keeps us hungry. But I want people who may not have it or may not be able to spare it at the time to also have a word. So that's why I highlight everybody. I try to get everybody in there, because we're all striving to be upright in this downtrodden world. And your opinion matters just as much as ours. On that note, know that I love you if you love truth, but know that the love of the true and living God will always love you better. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. Thank you so much. We're out of here.